been a little while that we featured a car from Infiniti, and to be honest, the first and only one that we've done here on Test Drive I wasn't overly impressed with. But any enthusiast knows that a good sedan can make all the difference. Our spotlight today is on this 2018 Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive. It has a 3-liter twin-turbo engine up front that produces 400 horsepower. It's matted to a 7-speed automatic transmission and has all-wheel drive. This is pretty much the quickest vehicle you can get in the compact executive sedan segment for the price. We've got ours optioned here at about $53,000, so unless you're going up to things like the Mercedes C63 AMG or Cadillac ATS V, this really is the quickest. So we're going to be showing you everything about this car, taking it on a drive and going over everything you need to know if you're in the market for a compact executive rocket ship. All right, let's not go back into the past and talk about the other Infiniti that we've driven. Let's not even mention any of the other vehicles that we've driven that would kind of compete with this. But the point is, as I mentioned, this is for the dollar amount, the best performance you can get in this segment. We've taken a look at all the other vehicles and really is the quickest, has the most horsepower, and ultimately costs pretty much in line with everything else, but it has a little bit more. Now, when it comes to this vehicle, it's not fully loaded, but I think this is what the enthusiasts are going to be looking at, especially if somebody wants power, maybe on a budget, and don't really care about all the tech features. There are no enhanced safety features, so blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, and active cruise control can stay at home. There's no 360-degree camera system, and there are no front adaptive LED headlights. But I think, again, that enthusiasts are going to be looking at this. From the front, I have to say it's quite aggressive. It is a very distinctively Japanese design. If you saw this vehicle without a badge on it, maybe you wouldn't know it's an Infiniti, but I can guarantee you know that this originated in Japan. It just has those flowing lines that you really only get on a Japanese car. And it's been a minute since we've driven another Japanese car, so I'm happy to have it. Now around back, I think that things get more Japanese than not. Now I'm not going to blame who stole whose design language, but I feel that the back end of this looks like the Mazda 6. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Mazda 6 is a great looking vehicle. I just feel that it has a very similar back end, especially with these taillights. Just reminds me of it, and you can let me know in the comments if you agree or not. But there really isn't much to surprise you back here. You do have the badging to let you know that this is the Red Sport 400, and that helps with the little red S badge on the back. The regular Sport models would have the regular silver badge on it, but this one has the red one to help distinguish it from the rest. I don't know if your average consumer is going to know that, even your average enthusiast, unless you're really in love with Nissan and Infinitis. You actually might not know that, and it's something that I learned while doing this video. But there isn't anything to surprise back here. You do have a little spoiler on the back, and I think it helps to even out the rest of the car. It looks pretty good. There's nothing overly flashy back here, but it gets the job done. Now let's go on the inside, where I'd say things do get a little different. Not necessarily going to say controversial, but if you've watched our episode on the Acura TLX, you might be prepared for this. Yes, dual front screens. It's actually very similar to the Acura TLX. And a lot of people talked about that in that video, that they don't like this setup. I wasn't a huge fan of it either, but it sort of works with this. It does feel a little dated though. We talked about that with the Infiniti QX60 that we did. The navigation system itself, the maps just don't feel as up-to-date as other luxury-oriented vehicles, even premium-oriented ones. I mean, Buick has a pretty good system, but it really is in line with Acura. In fact, the second screen here feels more like Subaru. If you take a look at the Impreza video that we did, I felt that this screen was kind of meh. It almost looks like the same head unit here. Very, very similar. So again, it's up to you whether it's a good thing or not. But I mean, it is laid out relatively well, and I have to say that over the last couple days, I've gotten more used to it than I thought I would. I'm certainly not falling in love with this car, but it has grown on me. The fit and finish is excellent on this car. Everything lines up where you would expect it to. I have no issues with rattling or weird sounds, considering this car has about 16,000 kilometers on it, so it has been broken in quite a bit. In fact, everything is pretty straightforward in here. Again, the dual screens may or may not be for you, but everything else makes sense. The only interior thing I've noted, which I'm not a huge fan of, is the automatic climate control. It's the first car in a very long time where we've had to adjust it all the time. In fact, I set it usually, most cars, to 23 degrees, especially during the heat wave that we've had here in Quebec over the last little while, I've had pretty much all the cars set to either 23 or 22. But with this car, if you set it to 23 or 22, it just keeps pumping out cold air, even on automatic. So I keep adjusting it and adjusting it. We've gotten up, even with this heat wave, up to 26 degrees, and it's still been too cold for me. I'm never cold. There's a couple other things I want to talk about with this. Again, this isn't fully loaded, but most enthusiasts will probably be looking at this. It comes with Bose audio. We don't normally talk about the audio system on cars because for the most part, whether it's Bose or Harman Kardon, we seem to like them. This though uses a Bose Performance Series system, and I have to think that this Performance Series pumps in audio into the car because the car itself sounds pretty good, especially when you are going up to the red line inside the cabin. But if you listen to it on the outside, it doesn't quite sound the same. So I think that this system is doing what some other cars we've tested this year have been doing, which is adding in artificial sounds into the cabin. And I mean, again, that's up to you whether that's a good thing or not. Backseat space is comparable to other compact executive vehicles that we've driven. My daughter fits back there. I would not be overly comfortable back there. But I have to say that even though I am a huge dude, the seats up here are pretty comfortable. I do feel tight, but that's expected for somebody like me. If you're a normal sized person, you're going to feel fine. But even I'm pretty comfortable. There's a lot of adjustment with these sport-oriented seats up here. But you guys came here not to see the interior, not to see me sitting in it. You guys came here to see what this car can do on the road. And I have to say that, again, every day that I'm driving this, I'm liking it more and more than the day before. So let's take this 400 horsepower all-wheel drive executive sedan on the road and see what it's all about. There are a number of different drive modes with this vehicle. You can switch them here just beside my right leg. There is snow mode, which we won't be using, eco mode, which we won't be using, standard mode, which we won't be using, sport mode, which we won't be using, and sport plus, which we will be. And then there's personal, which basically just allows you to change to whatever you want. And then essentially I've set the personal mode to be the equivalent really of sport plus anyway. Now it firms up the suspension a little bit and creates longer shifts with your transmission, and will also actually firm up the steering wheel a little bit. You can feel it a little bit, not as much as we did on something like the Buick Regal GS, but it certainly does make a bit of a difference. Now this car with 400 horsepower is quite quick, especially for a car that isn't something like an M3 or a Mercedes C63 AMG. It is pretty darn quick, and especially with all-wheel drive, you can certainly get the power down when you need it. Now we're also on residential roads here, so there's only so much that I can really do and really show you. If you wanted to see everything about the performance of a car like this, then there's probably reviews of this vehicle out there where it is done on a track, where it's done on a drag strip, where it's done somewhere that isn't a public road. But I'll give you an example, because if most people are buying this, they're probably not taking it on the track. They probably might go to the drag once in a while. They might do a little bit of performance stuff here and there, but the reality is you're going to be driving this on the road. So we're doing the speed limit right now. We're in Sport Plus mode. I'm not going to use the paddle shifters. You can put the car into manual mode and shift it down and go up like that, and whoo, it picks up pretty quick. But we're going to shift it back into manual mode because I want to show you here. Again, we're going to have to slow down again because I put a little bit too much acceleration into that one. But again, we're doing almost the speed limit. And actually, let's take it from a dig. There's nobody behind us. We're at the dig. This is full throttle. Ooh, once those turbos kick in, you feel it. A little bit of turbo lag there, but woo! That was over 100, and that was pretty quick. Now on paper, this is supposed to do 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 4.5 seconds. I would imagine that was pretty darn close. We don't have a way to time it, but I feel like that was really the amount you were supposed to get out of it. It has a tremendous amount of power. You really do get up to speed quickly. And do you really need that kind of power? I don't know. I mean, not really, right? I mean, who really needs 400 horsepower in a compact vehicle such as this? I know I don't need it, but I certainly like it. Now, is this vehicle as refined as a BMW or even some of the Cadillacs we've driven? I'd say that Cadillac has a fantastic ride. Not really. I mean, the engine certainly does feel refined. And again, we're up to 100. But everything else, it works really well, but it's not over the top. It's not exceptional. It's really good. It's just not exceptional. I find that you do feel a little bit of the road. You do hear quite a bit of the road too. The sound insulation on the inside here isn't overly great. But I have to say that it does perform pretty well. Does it perform as well as something like the Kia Stinger, which has about 35 horsepower less than this? It's hard to say without driving them back to back on the same course, doing the exact same stuff. But if we're driving like we are and we're chucking it into a corner, it should do it, as we're going to do here. We're going to take it into this corner pretty quick. Not as much. I feel that honestly, something like the Kia Stinger, when you go into a corner like that, you have a little bit more confidence. This, just a little less. And maybe it's because there's more power with it. But that's my only, not concern again, but just something to note. That if you're looking for a serious performance car, it's almost there. But it sounds good though. I'm pretty sure that this Bose Performance Series audio system is pumping in audio. There's no way that is pure engine and exhaust, but I don't know, it sounds pretty good. Who really cares, right? So overall, the comfort of the ride is pretty decent for a vehicle like this. Performance, as we've seen, is pretty outstanding. For a car that has 400 horsepower, you can't really argue. Sound is good too. That's one of the reasons why I continue enjoying to drive this car. I've had sort of a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to it. When I picked it up, I was kind of meh. I didn't really like the interior too much. As I drove it back from Montreal, I wasn't really too excited about it. But every day that I get into it, I like it a little bit more. And I think that's the way that these cars are meant to be. It's not going to be an instant love at first sight, but you are gradually getting into it, and that's definitely how I feel with this car. It's a gradual love affair. I do like driving it quite a bit. I think that it has tremendous potential. It's not all about the horsepower. Like I said, the steering and handling is pretty good. Not outstanding, but pretty good. So there's a lot going for it. And really, I mean, if you're looking for a Japanese premium performance-oriented vehicle, then this is the one to go for. Acura isn't doing anything. You have to go up to something like an NSX to get this kind of power. But then again, you're not going to be looking at an NSX and a compact executive vehicle such as this Infiniti Q50. So if you want power, you want performance, and you want sort of the tech going on in here, then this really is the one to go for. Buick with the Regal was certainly quick and enjoyable, but definitely nowhere near as fast as this. And I'd have to say that if we were to compare something like the Buick Regal GS, this feels more premium. This is almost luxury, and that's the whole point of premium. It's meant to be a bridge between the consumer and luxury market, so I think it does a very good job doing that. So it seems like the 2018 Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 is a well-rounded performance sedan, and there isn't much to fault about it. We had tiny complaints, like the front reading lights being LED, but the rear passenger lights were regular bulbs. But our list of dislikes and likes will be focused on what consumers will be interested in if they're shopping for a $50,000 plus compact executive sedan. The power to price ratio for the Infiniti is great. You're paying $134.24 per horse. Compare that with a no options 2018 BMW M3 with the dual clutch transmission at $81,450 Canadian. That works out to $191.65 per horse for 425 horsepower total. Same goes for the 2018 Mercedes-AMG C63. Without any options is $75,700 Canadian, or $161.41 per horse for a total of 469 ponies. Let's throw in a domestic competition with the 2018 Cadillac ATS V sedan. With the base MSRP of $68,590 with the 8-speed automatic, you're getting closer to the Infiniti with a $147.82 cost per horse with its 464 horsepower V6 engine. Right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, we were also pleasantly impressed with the interior build quality, the acceleration of this 400 horsepower V6, its overall sporty design, and automatic front heated seats, which was a first for us. Dislikes aren't necessarily deal breakers for some. We found that the 7-speed automatic transmission was sluggish in manual mode. We had a better driving experience keeping it in full auto. The dated navigation and lack of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is a big red mark for us, and they reused Nissan parts like the identical key we had from our 2010 Nissan Altima doesn't make this feel like a premium experience. Finally, we weren't happy with the automatic climate, which we touched on during our interior walkaround. We continuously had to increase the temperature as it kept spewing out cold air. For my wife, who's always cold, this was an expected problem. But even for me, who very rarely gets cold, needed to turn the heat up, even during our heat wave. But overall, this is an interesting vehicle from a manufacturer that a lot of people are starting to pay attention to. It's certainly no Eau Rouge, but the formula for speed and luxury is getting there. This might not be the Lexus killer that Nissan hoped for, but when put up against its direct premium segment competitors from Buick and Acura, the Infiniti really stands out on its own. Thanks for watching this episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the 2018 Infiniti Q50 Red Sport 400 all-wheel drive. Let us know in the comments below if you think a car like this can compete against something like a BMW M3, or if it should focus on something like the new Genesis G70. We publish new episodes of Test Drive every single week here on Perpetual Radio Networks, so make sure you're subscribed to get the latest automotive content as soon as we publish it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.